from this situation. And this deer, make a long story short, there's a thick creek bottom that I figured I can catch him. So, and I know he's going to be damn near nocturnal till this time. He might move a little earlier in the evening. And that's another thing. You got to hunt the deer when they're on their hoof traveling. A lot of times early season, you're hunting, 90% of the time you're sitting in a tree, I guarantee the deer's bedding down. It's like, I know he's like, unless you're in tight to where he's bedding and getting in early season, it's tough. But this time of year, you still got to get in close to him because he's not the crazy one. He's been through all this. He knows he's going to get some does. He don't have to get up and run at one whiff. None of some bucks I've hunted, they wouldn't even be get out of their nocturnal habits till about November 10th. When I know there was already does, there's a lot of deer. They just don't even be bothered with all that activity. They're going to get their share. But this deer I was hunting, I knew it was a thick creek bottom. I went in September, hung some cameras, and Friday, it was about the right time. I figured he'd be in there, and I had 2 cameras. So I went in at nighttime. It was about a 20-minute walk in, but I check cameras at night a lot in places like that. I know he's in tight there, and I want to know that he's there. So I went in at nighttime, and I took a stand in at nighttime about 8:30 at night. And that's when I hung the stand, and I said, all right, I'm going to hunt tomorrow morning. I'm going to get in here before him, because that was like, I don't know, it's about the 24th, 23rd, so that's about pretty right. It's just starting to heat up, and so I had headed down in there on a Friday night, and 8:30, took my stand, and he was on that camera an hour before I pulled the card. And then the other camera, he was pretty set right before dark, and right in the morning, he was there on them cameras the last week, and he moved down in there because the guys are starting down in them woods, and he has that seam at them certain areas he gravitates to, and he travels into, and he knows where he's safe. So I said, well, I'm going to get in here tomorrow morning. I went in before daylight. So this is like this is when I start hunting, around the 24th, 25th, when I feel like he's going to get up before dark or return to his bed before daylight. So I went in the next morning, and right before I got up my tree, I went all the way down there. It was about an hour after daylight. I bumped him out of there. But so I didn't hunt. I actually come in across from another area in the evening, try to hunt him. But and another thing is when you're walking down in there and I spooked him, chances are he's going to come back. He's living there for a reason. And he didn't like that. He didn't like me being in his area that before daylight. But then again, I wasn't up in a tree and he didn't smell me. That would really freak him out, But I left the cameras there. He'll come back. So I still am kind of in scout mode. I'm just obsessed with scouting and hiking, moving cameras and studying maps, knowing the land where these animals lives. I'm on to about 3 or 4 good ones that I want to hunt. So I still, I'm not ready to pull the trigger and hunt just because of the deer I'm hunting. The chances of him being on a hoof, unless it does in heat, and it's starting to get there. But I'll start hunting here this Friday, and I'm still going to get in tight to where I think he's bedding. I'm not in the random areas where the doe are yet. Probably into November. There's a time when the deer, a certain buck, could, there might be 1 or 2 days out of a whole year that he'll just be sporadic. He could be anywhere. In that sense in here, but then mature ones, they still kind of use their senses. But as far as traveling, like maybe pinches and up in doe bedding areas, I'm not ready to hunt there. Like if I get up Friday to my hunting spot this Friday to Saturday, I'm still going to get in tight to where he's still comfortable. And actually last year I hunted there, and the first time I hunted, I missed a good buck down in that thick creek bottom. So then the next time I hunted, there was like deer filtering in because all these people want to get in these clear cuts, which is all the signs up there. But that's all nocturnal sign. They're down in the creek bottoms. But that's about what I'm still scouting. And maybe at noon, or if I come out, or if I don't feel like they're on a day walking adventure, or maybe I'll grab cameras and move cameras. If I got fresh sign on the camera, I'll get into them. And like I said, when I'm scouting, like when I was up. So I'm 2.5 hours from where I hunt. So I was up there last weekend when I was hunting. And then on Sunday, another thing is when them leaves fall, covers a lot of sign up, but you could still see deer tracks in them fresh leaves. And whether it's dry, you can see maybe a buck dragging his feet, or if it's like a damp, you can actually see how they press down through them leaves. And And I, when I'm scouting, I'm looking at every little detail, and I'm like, and that tells me, you can kind of tell if it's a buck or a doe just by the size of the track or the gait. But okay, there's, even though it maybe covered up the mass or whatever on the ground or the trails or the shit that you don't see. And that's when I want to be scouting, is right before that rut. I still want to be in the woods scouting, because that's where the deer are. They're there for a reason. Maybe there's hunters in the area, but this is a safe place. This is where they're at. This is where they're active. So I put that in my memory bank. And and I check cameras a lot at night, even that time of year, if it's in a place where I don't want to spook them. There are some places you can get them in the daytime, take inventory, get your cameras and see what's going on with that, But like I said, they're still kind of close to some cover in a safe place. Them mature bucks, they're not really, so I feel like this weekend I'm still going to get down in them areas where they're safe before they get crazy, and maybe just hunt doe bedding areas or some pinch or something like that. But like I said, this is just for example, a place I'm hunting. So yeah, that's and they either want that cover or maybe like a place where people can get to, maybe on a steep hillside or on another deer I'm hunting. They like the cover, but he goes out around this point, and it's way down over the mountain, and nobody. It's open down there, so we're replacing the cover with a hard to reach area, terrain. Even though it's open, he's there because people are not, in his time, he's probably 6 years old. He never really been messed with, so they're going to be use their mind, they're going to be in safe places. And as the last week when I was checking the cameras, they were still, when I get them out moving, they're still nocturnal, but they're in safe places. And it might not be covered. It might be like hard to reach location, the topography, or just a vast area where nobody goes back in. And so,
or even thermal hubs.
That's where they're still.
A thermal hub too would be probably another place where they're hiding out, where everything pulls to them, where they can smell you long before they see you.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. So that's pretty much what I'm doing in a pre-rut. A little bit of hunting still. And around Halloween's when I'll start hunting a lot more, and still pre-rut, they still got their sense, and you still got to do everything right, and they're onto the hunting game, these older mature bucks, and so it's tough. Like I said, I bumped that deer just going in there before daylight, and he was almost into his bed. So I don't know if you want to consider that pre-rut. It's right on the fringe there. It was a 24th, 25th. I'd say it probably is. But I bet you that mature deer, I started following this deer about 3 years ago, and that's another thing with deer. They change their habits and as they age, and he had one clear cut when I first found him. He was like a 20-year-old in college, and maybe had a lot of testosterone. He wanted to fight. He had the whole place rubbed up and beds everywhere, and I've seen him twice. I had my bow back on him, and then next year he disappeared. I think too much activity in there, human activity, and I found him last year about a half a mile away, and he, this year too, he's in that same area, but he really don't rub much. And I wanted to touch on rubs, what I've learned about rubs, but just still talking about the pre-rut, the mature deer that I'm after are still, they're still fat and lazy, and they don't get crazy. So we got to get in tight to where you know they're at, but know where they're at. Don't just say, I hope he's bedding down there. That's why I put them cameras down in that bottom, and that's why I check him at night, is so I want to know he's down there. And he was only there the week before, 1 week prior to me checking them cameras at night. Before that, I never had him hardly any deer on camera. Then he was a regular, so pressure got on, and that's where he's at. And I'd say as of this, Friday coming up, he'll probably still be down there. That's his safe spot. And they just kind of, and then the does will go down to, he knows he lives there. The ones that want to get bred, they know where he hangs out. It's like, it's a community that you live in. You know where so-and-so hangs out. He hangs at this bar. You know where to see them people. It doesn't even have to be straight. He's going to go grab it. The doe's going to go down. The buck I missed last year, them big does come down in there. It was like a little frenzy down there. But you got to find them seams and little areas that and I don't do the normal scene, see the normal sign, and that's all like nighttime stuff, and everything looks good. Because I've done it when I was younger. I hunted, man, look at that big rub I'm hunting. I sit there like, yeah, I never seen them. And now you want to talk about rubs. I've learned probably 10 years now using cameras. I'd find rubs, I'd put cameras on rubs, and I'd like 3 or 4, man, he claims this area. This is where he lives. I never get a picture of him. And actually, this big one I'm talking about, up in that clear cut, he rubbed, and there was a trail coming in a clear cut, and he had a rub line. I'm like, that's a rub line. So we're hunting camera for 2 weeks. He never come back. But I think, talking about rubs, I think some of these deer, like that 8-point, he's marking that clear cut to say, hey, this is my territory. I own it. Even though I'm way down here in this thick creek bottom hiding because all them hunters. So I feel like, and down in that creek bottom area, now when I looked around, it was night. I didn't see much sign rubs in that, but it's like, I feel like they put that sign, them rubs out, them sign posted, them rubs, they mark it up because it's like, I can't be here, but I'm going to leave my sign behind. So you're hunting them rubs. Sometimes my gears start turning. I'm like, you're hunting these rubs, but he's not here. He's just saying he's here. It's like, he's leaving a decoy out. Like, this is like a spitting image of him. He's putting it up there himself, letting all other deer. He's here, but really he ain't there much. He's just trying to. So yeah, my gears start turning and looking at rubs over the years. I'm like, I see big rubs and you hunt them, and I'm not saying, and that's every situation, but I found situations that this happened. They actually put that sign down because they don't want to be there because of hunting pressure, but so they'll leave that and say if he's there, he don't have to rub because all the scent's there, and he's there, he's visually there. The other deer can see him. Oh, this is your property. You own it, But like I said, when he was younger, he rubbed up a clear cut. He owned it, but he changed, probably been jumped, maybe shot at. And so he's rubbing this one clear cut now, but he's living way down at the bottom. He's not even going up there. So there's a lot. I mean, and I think some rubs deer put out is like you get angry, like humans get angry, you get mad, you get frustrated, you want to punch something. It's like, I think getting close to the rut, they're bedded maybe nocturnal all day, hiding, and they get out. And they just rub trees wherever they're walking. They don't even know where they're going. I'm just mad. I just got to rub trees. And they're like, oh, man, this is where I got to hunt. This is terrible. And he just rubbed it because he was mad. Or maybe he's seen another buck when he was out walking around at night and they wanted to fight, or he'd rub trees. And it might not even mean anything sometimes, So there's all different reasons for the deer rubbing. And I think, that's just some things I've learned, and some things I speculated, like maybe this is why. Because when I was younger, and I'm pretty successful, but how am I successful? I wish I kept logging all the time I spent in the woods. People look at me like, man, you spent that much time in the woods, and you only got so many bucks, and you ain't too successful. You know what I mean? But I did all the things wrong that now I know. I learned. I did all that stuff. I read all the magazines that didn't pertain to where I was hunting. It was how to rub straight. Then I tried listening to that, and it wasn't always pertaining to my area where I hunted. The person that wrote the article might work good for his area, and so I just started learning. I just spent all my time in the woods, walking and intimately knowing the woods like the deer know, studying the maps, and sometimes I use a tracker on my phone to follow me, and then I'll run myself through that track again. And what I seen, I just got mental notes, and I put all the pieces of the puzzle together to where I know where they're at. So that's about what I do. I spend too much time in the woods, I think, and I'm not the guy that says I know, or I know everything. And I ask people that I take hunting that don't know much. I took my girlfriend last year, or the year before. I said, hey, we can go down that bottom maybe. What do you think? She looked at me like, you're a big buck hunter. Where do we go? I'm like, well, maybe you got an idea. Maybe you would think it's hot. Maybe the deer be down the creek. Well, let's go down by the creek. But yeah, I don't know everything. And I think that's when you're able to learn more, is when you're not ignorant and say, yeah, this is how you do it. This is how I done it. So that's a little bit of information for you guys to stew over, I guess.
Well, when you're doing all this, scouting, there's a lot of public land, it sounds like, where you're at. Like, how much of this scouting is new territory? Because you mentioned you spend more time scouting than hunting. So, like, what are you looking for when you're scouting?
That's a good question, Eric. I start dabbling into new areas, read maps. I want to check this out, but I only have limited time, so I am gravitating toward deer that have been around 3 or 4 years, but I've been chasing them. I get to know them personally. Like a buddy of mine said, "Yeah, Johnny gets to know his deer before he kills them." Another hunter, but what am I looking for? I think the biggest thing is pressure, hunting pressure, that I see through all the normal stuff that other people see. The deer sign that's left behind, I see where the people are hunting, and I want to go far away, not far away. Another instance in this public land, there's a logging trail, and it goes out around this mountain. It's about a 20-minute back in the woods, and everything's there. It's beautiful. It's got some pines, it's got some springs. It has ample food, clear cuts, hardwoods. It's a diverse piece of land back in there. And back in the day, it used to be awesome. But more and more guys are hunting public land and hunting this. And I had a camera, and I'd have like 20 guys going back in, this area hunting this top, and easier. People want to get away, but it's like, it's attractive. It's like, it's got everything. But and I didn't get a big deer. I got a lot of people on this camera. The places I used to get big deer, I'm getting a lot of people had a camera stolen. So I went, but I still like the area, and I'm attracted to it. So I just kind of know where the hunters go, as the deer know where the hunters go and where they hunt. And it might be the best spot for that big mature buck. He's like, I'm not going over there. I'm not, because that's where all the people are. They walk that trail and they hunt near there, and they hunt. It's all the same. So I went out shed hunting that area, and I found a place maybe 300 yards to the west, and it was off at Logan Road, and it used to be it was like a little grassy area with a bunch of saplings. It was real thick to where deer didn't even want to walk. Mature deer didn't even want to walk through it. But that was 5 years ago. I found it. Well, shed hunting last year, the saplings got bigger, and it's just enough for a deer to sneak through there. And I found rubs, scrapes. That was in March and that was the sign that was laid down last year. And I'm like, you know what? There's a big buck living here, and he's just a couple hundred yards away from where the majority of the population lives, the deer population, and where everybody wants to hunt. And I guarantee he's still maybe 80% nocturnal, or the does might go to him. I mean, they all slip up and make mistakes. They smell a doe, but they find these scenes in these areas where people don't go. So I'm not hunting the ideal place, but it's a place, and it's the place where the buck is going to be, not the ideal place, because you can't be there. It's where all the people are. So I've been finding these areas, and I get to know intimately where's a buck going to go. There's a lot of cover in general, but they still are close to the rest of the herd, the rest of the deer. They're just like a satellite. They're a shadow. They're there, So I try to find them areas of people, where people aren't. You look for beer cans or pop cans. I look for human tracks. You can see them on the leaves, or in the mud, or in the water. Put cameras out, not just to see the deer, but the humans. But the cameras are a great thing. You get up, and I do really rely on them, because I can't be up there all the time, because it is 2.5 hours away. Everywhere I go is at least 2 hours from me. Public lands that I hunt in different states.
Well,
I rely on them cameras to tell me a lot.
I was gonna say, didn't the public hunting guys just
Hunting
do
public,
the?
yeah.
Did I just say that backwards?
You did. Yeah,
I
Hunting
bet.
Public was just up there with Dan Infault and
John
Sturgis. And,
Yeah, Jesters, yeah. I don't know if they were in your neck of the woods, but it looked like not easy, not easy at all, and Humboldt.
Yeah, I bet you within an hour or so of where I hunt, I don't know exactly where they were. And another thing up in that area, I just know, you could talk about and get scientific about thermals and this and that. I just know you can't rely on the wind. And it's just like, so you got to be scent free as possible. So when I go hunting, that's why another reason I don't hunt a lot, like early season, you sweat, you get off your tree, you're sweating, MFing, you know what I mean? It's like, so when it's cold, you're wrapped up. I always wear a scent lock hood or some type of hood to hold my scent in. Leave my, I wash my clothes, and I got a washer and dryer just for my hunting stuff. And I only wear like my base layer once or twice, because then it's compromised. Whether it's wool or not, I rewash them. I don't take chances, because it is mentally tough and physically sometimes, but getting into where you need to know on these public land deer, without spooking them, doing everything, because you're also taking a chance. Like I took a chance getting in there before daylight. He was already there. It's tough. If you want to be successful, it's not easy. And you got to do everything right. It's got to be your scent, your entrance. Can't make noise. But you still got to get in close to where they're at. And a lot of them bucks are bedded down before daylight. They're in there, and even if you're going to go in the evening and try to catch them coming out of their bed, like I said, pre-rut, I still think the bigger ones are still not leaving until, half hour before dark. You got to get in tight to them still then. And they don't take chances with their life. They don't make that many mistakes during a rut, but they're bedding. They have the cover. They have an escape route. They have everything going for them. It's tough for you, and they don't use trails a lot. Where I hunt is all browse. There's no mass. It's cherries, beech, maple, hemlocks, but there's not concentrate. That's another thing. There's not concentrations unless I'm at clear cuts, and a lot of guys gravitate toward them clear cuts, but there's not concentrations of massed food. They roam and browse. But that's another thing in the area down in that Brushy Creek bottom. There's some browse, and so when I shed hunt in the winter, I get down there. There's a lot of deer shit. So there's food down in there, and that's another reason he's down in there, because even throughout the day, he's milling around and eating a little bit, because that's what he does in October. He fattens up for when the time's right. He got that fat. He's lazy, and that's what they do, eat and sleep. But there's so much browse up there, he just moves around and eats, lays back down, and it's tough. I mean, the rut, the late pre-rut is, they got to be traveling. They pretty much got to be traveling, going to the next doe bedding area, maybe hitting a scrape. For you to kill a deer, he has to be on his foot walking. So yeah.
No, it's not an easy man's game. Like, it's not. Public land hunting it's a pain in the ass. It's super rewarding. Everything's a trophy. If especially bow hunting, public land, like, it's not easy. But to ask yourself why deer are doing something is interesting to think about. But knowing what they're doing is also good to think about. Like, you might know they're doing X, Y, Z. Who cares why they're doing it sometimes? But sometimes you got to know why. And there's wildlife biologists that can't answer the why for some of these things. And why is the deer doing this? Why is it doing that? Like you said, like, maybe he's just rubbed up this tree because he's, all aggravated. There's not a why to it. You can't, not everything is a sign to be taken seriously. But as a hunter, it's hard to know what to filter through and what to gravitate towards. It's really, you're out there and you're on boots on the ground. Everything is different when you're actually out there. It's all candy bars and lollipops, and you're looking at maps and wind direction. This should be great. We've been doing that all week. This should be the spot. The temperature is dropping. The high pressure system. The moon is full. The blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But
That's great, but if you're not in front of them, if you're not in front of them, you could be just out there because of all those things. But if you're not in front of them, they're not on the hoof. They're not moving.
Or they're
What
slipping
good is
through
it?
something,
Yeah.
and maybe they were
And that's
right on your
where-
nose, you didn't even know it.
That's where getting out there and scouting, like Friday, I'm apprehensive about just going in to sit. I'm thinking Friday morning,
Sit for a little bit,
sit for a
let the
little
woods
bit.
come to life, see what happens, and then get the hell down and
Yep,
scout.
then go.
for
Then go
afternoon.
scout. Yep, we're gonna go put a ton of boot leather down and see what happens, see what we find.
Well, John, what kind of sign trips your trigger? Like, where is it that you're going to set up on? What is it that you're looking for that you're like, oh, here we go. This is it. Like, what is that for you?
Yeah, and the different states that I hunt, I think the main thing is not many guys hunting there, or where you're wanting to hunt. I don't know. I don't know, the scrapes and the rubs, the does are there. That's all good when they're starting to rut, maybe from this clear cut to that. But and like I said, the area I'm hunting here in PA there's a decent amount of pressure. There's logging roads through it. I want to find them seams. I want to find, and I'll put cameras there, and there might not be a lot of sign, but that's where that buck, like down in that creek bottom. No, I never seen anybody hunt down there. Oh no, let me take that back. There's a guy that has a ladder stand about 300 yards away, and it's been there for 6 years. And he cuts these shooting lanes down, like half the forest is cut down. And you know what? I like that because it's thick where I'm at, and I'd say this old deer knows there's something up with that spot, where they smelled a guy there at a stand. And sometimes I walk by that guy's area, and there's not much sign there because the young ones maybe, but because most people hunt a lot, and they don't take the precautions you need to take getting in and being scent free. And the guys that hunt the same spots, the deer are just going to satellite them spots. They know you're right there. So I ideally want to find a place nobody's at. Then you can, if you know that nobody's there, then you can use the sign. But if you go and you see some sign, then, oh, there's a camera. Oh, see a boot track. Everything goes out the window because did he spook this deer? Does this deer know he's here? Is this guy hunting here a lot? And being that it's public land, whether that guy's there or not, he already knows what the gig is. There's a place up there. I found this little field and these big rubs. I found them in March when I was shed hunting, and they were probably 8, 10, 12-inch diameter trees in this little field. And they were rubbed a couple years in a row. And it's a deer that I think I got on camera about 2 years ago, and he moved, and I think this is where he's at. But I threw some cameras up. But it's like, and every individual animal is different. So I think he comes out in the middle of the night, rubs these trees, but then you walk in any direction. And there's oaks here at this area. It's just flat rolling, gradual hardwoods, and I'm like, not much cover. There's some hemlocks out. It's like, where is he? There are different bucks that you'll hunt. I've hunted in the past, and it's like this one, he's too random. I can't even get on to him. I don't even know where he's at. But there are bucks. This one's easy to kill. I can kill this deer. He got a little bit of a pattern. But I think the biggest thing for me is getting away from the people. And I don't mean getting away. You don't have to go. I mean, I got spots where it's half a mile, 3/4 of a mile hike to get away. But I got spots where I know the people are hunting. Like the one guy's hunting kind of where I found them rubs up in the clear cut where this 8-point is. He's like, man, I'm going to hunt that clear cut. I'm going to put my ladder stand in. I'm like, awesome, yeah. He said, you're not hunting there? I'm like, no, man, hunt there. He said, it's tore up in there, So he hunted near that area, and it was the first day of archery, being October, and he stopped at camp. I said, what'd you see? Yeah, another guy parked up the road, and his long beeper was going off, and I heard him and his boy, and this is like, so this is what's going on in a pre-dawn. And these bucks are already like, I already know the gig. You know what I mean? So
yeah, they're
like
on.
way on to this. Like, yeah, this is 6'5", 4, 6, 7-year-old animals. So I do want to find them. And then I find down in that creek bottom, hey, I'm finding mature does too that are moved down in there and bucks. You really don't have to go far. In different states, find where the hunters aren't. I hunt in the Midwest, usually late season. I'm not busy working, and I'll go to different public lands and see where the least amount of sign is. And so I like to go when there's snow. I just see some tracks and learn from that. Or I've done it where I went out there to the Midwest and put a bunch of cameras out in like December and went out there and see what's left, see what deer I can hunt. I like to know what's out there, and because you don't know what the variables. There's a bunch of guys hunting here, so yeah, the cameras always work for me to just keep running cameras.
My problem is like indecision.
mainly,
When you get that many different properties to choose from, you're like, oh, I should have gone here. I should have gone there. Nah, there's too much pressure here. It's like you just can't be everywhere at once. And so sometimes you got to just make a decision, stick with it and live with it. And,
right.
it is what it is. Like maybe one property's more pressured one day than it was a different day. And with COVID, I think that things are going to be way more pressured than they ever have most days of the week because people are itching to get outside. They have more time on their hands. They're taking up new hobbies. We had a call from someone that got their first buck with a bow ever, and they just learned how to shoot archery last summer. It's going to be interesting. So your whole concept of get away from the other hunters, that's a concept that I'm in love with. I'm obsessed with that concept so much so that we have a freaking app that helps you do it. Not that it's a shameless plug, but that's 90% of our time is getting away from other people. And you stumble on that people saying like, shit, now I gotta think harder here. I gotta push in deeper. I gotta think differently. Like, where are these guys not gonna go? And now that I know they're there, like, how is that impacting the deer movement in that area? Where are the deer gonna go in correlation with that other hunter that I know might be in this area based on tree stands, trail cams? I mean, shit. I went up a river on Sunday, an hour paddle up a river with a buddy. We saw 2 tree stands and 1 trail cam. A trail cam right on the frickin' water. So, they're just watching people go by in boats to see who the hell's hunting their spots. They're not watching deer. They're watching people. Wave to the camera.
Yeah,
Smile.
I thought I had a tough one. You're going upstream in a canoe and you're still seeing guys.
When we ran into 2 guys, man,
Yeah.
we had 2 guys, that had a motor on their canoe, and we just happened to leave earlier in the day that we beat them to the spot. We were getting out of the boat. Me and my buddy, this is Sunday. This is, a couple days ago, and they caught up to us. We heard them coming. We're like, are they going to stop here? Are they going to stop here? Nope. They're still coming. They finally catch up to us. Hey, you guys getting out here? Yeah. We were going to hunt there, but you beat us to it, so it's yours fair and square. All right. We'll keep going. Yeah. So it's like, holy shit, we just paddled an hour. Like, we think we're doing something great, and we get out, and there's a freaking stand. It's just nuts, man. Like, there's a lot of hunters, and there's some of these guys that some of these spots, they're not as remote as we might think. So
nothing's remote with online mapping anymore.
It's a different game we're playing now, but there's still pockets and nooks and crannies and ways to go about it, and you're still separating yourself from a larger population of hunters by doing stuff like that, for sure. I mean, we only saw 2 hunters, not 10. Which if we would have parked in the lot, walked in the woods, we probably would have saw tons of guys.
That's what you said, like the nook and cranny, and that I got a story for you years ago, hunting around where I grew up. There was like 500 acres, coal mine property. Everybody hunted in town, and I remember chasing a deer. I missed him, and he ran down toward the road, and I just gave. It was like what it was. He ran toward the road, and right before the road there was an old railroad bed that they actually cut through the hill. So as I was walking toward the road, there was like a 20, 30-foot drop off to like a 10-foot wide railroad bed and back up. And there was a little piece of land on the other side of the railroad bed, maybe a half acre, then the road. And the deer went there, and I said, well, he crossed the road. Well, 10 years down the road, I didn't go down across that railroad bed and up on that little hump. 10 years later, when they took the 500 acres out, there was nothing left. There was just, they built houses, and there was just little strips of trees. And we went walking, and we went down on that railroad bed because there was nothing left as far as cover for the deer. So we went down across that railroad bed on that little hump. It was tore up. I said, and I thought back 10 years ago, I was like, that deer never crossed the road. He just went across his railroad bed on a hump because nobody goes there. So that was a hard hunted area he had, that there was a little nook there that they used. So I'm like, man, I wonder how many of these are out in the big forest that I hunt. He had this spot that we never thought of that existed, but they knew about it. No one would go there. Was that hump? No one's going to go down across that big ditch. Just the road's right there. You could damn near see the road. But yeah, there's, like you said, all them nooks, and I'm learning the seams, the nooks, these little areas that, and like you said, them deer could possibly, when you're canoeing up that stream, the deer there could possibly still be nocturnal, the mature deer you're after, just because of the pressure, to where they'll go out at night to find their doe or put their sign down. And a lot of these deer I get all the way up till, exception of that buck that I put the camera in that creek bottom where the brush was. I got early morning and right at evening, but all the other cameras that I check during the day, I check them during the day because I'm pretty, like through October, I know the deer are not there. And it's all nighttime. And a lot of these big bucks, I'll just get them. I got this one buck that's out on this mountain. I get him at nighttime, and he's just walking. And I think in his mind, he lays pretty much all day. And he got a plan in his head. I'm going up. I'm gonna go check these does. I'm gonna go there, and he just beelines. You know what I mean? And then he kind of gets to know what's going on with these does. Then into November, then he starts being daylight because he gets the one, and he got to go find the other one. But we might be, they might still be nocturnal if there's that much pressure up in
for sure.
Halloween.
We did, I think it was, I'm trying to think what episode number it was. We did an episode with our friend Bill Thompson with Spartan Forge, and he's got like a really cool platform that's, releasing soon here, but his whole thing was he got deer tracking collar data from the last 7 years, and he built a data model to determine when are these deer doing what they're doing, how are they navigating certain properties and terrain, and he's got millions of data points. Episode, what was this? I can't tell. I'm trying to figure it out here.
A couple episodes ago.
Yeah, episode 148. He was like, well, we have millions of data points. He's like, so I don't know why a deer does what it does, but I can tell you that it does do what it does because I got 7 years of tracking collar data from all the colleges around the U.S. that tell me what it does. And some of these big deer sitting on a freaking cliff edge, and they barely even participate in the breeding season. They're not even really dealing with the rut. They're going out at night and breeding these does at night, and then they're sleeping all day, and no hunter's ever going to see them, ever. They don't move,
Yeah, you're exactly, that's how I feel this big 8-point. I know he's 6 to 8 years old, the rack's going downhill, but then it could be an easier game if you can find him.
Yep.
Like he's down in that creek bottom. I think I'm going to get up there Friday. I feel like, because last year I looked for him. I looked for his rubs. I had them all over. You could be 100 yards off, or you could, if you're 100 yards off, you might as well be a mile off. Because he got, this works for me. This is what I do. This is what I'm going to do. And like you said, he don't participate. He ain't rubbing much. Maybe get 2 or 3 does. That's it.
It's like, you get shot at and tell me you're going to fucking do something again with your life. Like, nope, I'm never going down that alley ever again. Not a chance. It leaves an indelible mark on your brain. You're not doing it.
That's what I said. They're almost foolproof. And, that's what I said, the deer I'm hunting, it's like, so to try to get one before the, even pre-rut, I still get in tight. And what I love about that radio caller is really interesting. I have to check that one out.
Yeah, episode 140, it's a good one. They got some really cool stuff going on over there. So you'll be hearing more from those guys soon, I'm sure. Just everyone will, not you specifically,
cool.
but yeah.
That's what totally intrigues me. We know so much, but we don't know shit.
And he's like, I don't know why I did this. He's like, he'll kick the data over to the biologist, and they'll be like, well, we can make some inferences here based on what we know, but it's really neat when you have an unbiased, objective viewpoint of just what the data tells you. It's really interesting. He said, I had some ideas that I had believed, some preconceived notions, and boy, oh boy, was I wrong. It's pretty humbling.
Yeah, they get older, they're just worried about surviving. And I know some of these deer, I run, cameras in the spring, and you'll see a 2-year-old, or you could tell just by his body, you could see his ribs.
Yeah.
And you'll see a 3 or 4, 5 this old. You can't even see his rubs. A rough winter, because he's been through those rough winters of chasing them does when he's a yearling 2-year-old. He's like, no, I'm surviving. I don't care about those does. I'll get 1 or 2. I want to be healthy. It might be 2 foot of snow up here. I don't want to deal with that. I almost died that first year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's funny.
And you could think about it, and they're just, you could say all the thing about rubs, scrapes, and what they do, but they're just surviving, staying away from humans.
Yep.
That's it. They still got to associate and breed, but they got to do it and stay away from the humans. And it stimulates my brain when I walk in the woods. I'm looking everywhere, up and down, and I'm looking at my map,
trying to piece it together,
and just learning that moves.
My wife is obsessed with putting puzzles together. The harder, the better. And so I told her, she's like, I just don't understand, why you're so obsessed. I'm like, Well, you know how you like putting puzzles together? So do I. But the only way I get a piece is when I go out and do something, you know, and experience it. Only then do I get a new piece. And like, until I put an arrow through something, like I haven't finished the puzzle. You know, like I'm trying to piece it together, and the only way to go do that is to get out there. You know, I got to piece it together. It's pretty neat.
I look at it, my analogy is like it's like you get pieces of the puzzle. You don't even have nowhere near. It's a 500-piece puzzle. You got 10, and
they're
you're
like
trying to figure out the move. Like killing the deer is like the picture on the box. You don't even know what the picture is.
And everyone's like, "Oh, it's so easy. I see deer from the road all the time." Yeah, of course you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not pressured. They're in your backyard.
Yeah, like you said, you can't. With that biology, you can't explain why they do it.
Yep.
You said there might not be
an obvious why.
So I boil it down to.
Well, it's an individual
surviving.
situation. Yeah, it's a survival situation. Maybe they had an encounter with a pack of coyotes, or, you know, the neighborhood kids like to play in that part in the woods, and they don't like the noise that they make. So they know darn well if they go over here and hang out and, you know, have enough food and cover, and water's not far away, they'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
It's really fun. Interesting.
John, thanks for hanging out with us on the show tonight. An hour goes by quick when we're talking about deer, as we all know. Not sure if you cracked open a High Life Light or what you had over there, but I drank a glass of bourbon. It was pretty tasty. Greg, what are you drinking?
Oh, I get into deer mode. It's like, oh. But yeah, I hope people could look at it kind of how I see stuff, and I don't have their how-to. This is what a scrape, this is a primary, second. I don't really know all that. You know, a scrape is a calling card. Big scrape, there's a mature deer in it. You might hit it once in a while, but I don't know. I don't have all that, and I feel like I don't know that much because I'm always learning, and I don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. And that's what's great about it. I spent all that time and I still don't know everything, and so you'll never know. So it's just I love the chase. I love scouting, and airing an animal is. And there's years my goal is to shoot 170-inch on public land, and there's a few years that went by that I never even pulled a trigger. And it was a couple times it was like, I don't know if the deer was even still alive that I seen last year that I'm hunting this year, and I'm not shooting any other deer because he's the biggest one around because I want that 170. And then I'll hunt all the way through January, and you know what? I'm like, I didn't kill nothing, but I still learned so much, and I enjoyed being out there. You know, it's not all about the kill. You know, yeah, you celebrate, you get the kill. So, and he's like Greg said, you need the meat for the old lady, you know, so you got to kill something. But yeah, it's just great. So.
Well, cool. Thanks for your time. I know you're a busy guy running a business, and you got lots going on, and we're obviously getting into hunting season. So we'll be happy to follow along. I know you and Greg Litzinger are going to be meeting up at deer camp and, you know, putting your heads together to see what you can get done. So it'll be fun to follow along. We'll recap with you guys soon.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, guys. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Good luck out there.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.